Right, you're all welcome to this particular session. I believe some people have been added. We are yet to know who have been added so far, but I think the 3 people that have been scheduled so far are right here. And so we'll start with them whilst we wait for any additional person that has been added lately. So we are starting with you, Yating.
Correct.
Correct. Oh, that's wonderful. Beautiful. She's a PhD candidate at the Department of English at the Hong Kong Polytechnic University in Hong Kong. And I think she's going to talk about representations of leftover women in the Chinese English language news media. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Please take a seat. So, my name is Tiffany. I come from Hong Kong Polytechnic University, and I'm a third-year PhD student now. And if you're confused by the topic, don't worry, I will explain. So, what is Chinese English language news? Chinese English language news means English language news that is produced in China by Chinese journalists. And what is leftover women? Leftover women is a term coined by the All China Women's Federation in 2007, and it was officially listed as one of the neologisms by the Ministry of Education. And the definition is unmarried women over 27. Yeah, I know it's funny. Yeah, most people I think are over 27 in this room. So after a decade, the All China Women's Federation tried to ban the usage of this term, and this justified the period of my corpus is between 2007 and 2017. So based on my literature review, my first research niche is topical. So the previous studies, which have examined the local Chinese language media, their findings pinpoint that the traditional patriarchal discourse prevail in the media. However, my study will examine the English language news. And my question is whether the traditional patriarchal discourse perpetuated or is it contested. And my second research niche is methodological. So, based on my literature review, so the visibility of corpus-assisted CDA has increased in different domains, such as gender representations. However, only a few studies have found employing corpus-assisted CDA to examine gender representation. So, my study will contribute to this growing literature by proposing an analytical framework that could bring out the most of my topic. And the third research niche is geographical. So the majority of the studies, they examine the representation of Western women and Western men. However, the representation of Chinese men and women are relatively less. And so my study will examine the representation of Chinese women in relation to the discursive and also social cultural context in China. So I have 3 research questions. Number 1, what are the discursive and linguistic features such as metaphor that describe the attributes, activities, and evaluation of leftover women? And so, what are the gender discourses emerging from the representation? And second, how are the gender discourses legitimized in the news? And third, what are the ideological implications of the representation? And so for my data, I have collected a specialized corpus from English Chinese language news. And as you can see, the number of the words in total are 200,000 words, and the period, as I mentioned, is between 2007 and 2017. And so for my methodology, if you are not a linguist, I'm sorry, but I'll try to explain it. So I will try to use Sinclair's mini-shift units. So I call it MSUs. So under the MSU, there are 5 categories. So the number 1 is invariable core. That means that the nodes will occur in every incidences, like the concordance. And collocation, that means the frequent co-occurring words next to the node. So in my case, so the invariable core would be like leftover woman and leftover women, so the singular and the plural. And then collocation is the grammatical choices of the co-occurring words. And the semantic preference is the word meaning surrounding the node. And then the semantic prosody is the discourse functions surrounding the units. And so I try to propose a feminist critical approach to MSUs. So there are 5 steps, or 3 steps. The first one is MSU Identification. So for this one, I will use some corpus linguistic tools such as wordsmith and also congram. And then I then interpret the MSUs. I will use a critical discourse analysis framework. And at the end, I will try to explain what are the gender discourses surrounding the MSUs. So I will try to explain it in more detail so that you know what I'm talking about. So for the MSU identification, I use the wordsmith software to generate the frequent collocates. So these are the collocates surrounding leftover women. The setting for the wordsmith I use as n of 5. And the minimum frequency for the collocates to be considered is 8 times. So you can see the minimum is 8 times here. And I will examine the top 59 frequent collocates because it accounts for 70% of all the frequent collocates. And then next, I will categorize all the collocates into function words and then content words. And for discourse analysts, mostly we will just be interested in the content words instead of the function words. And so we use the content words together with leftover, woman with the wildcard, that means it includes the singular and also the plural. And then with these content words. So I use these 3 words to do a 3-word congram search. So if you are confused by what is a congram search, that simply just means like concordance. So in the end, I have got 682 concordance knives, and then I put them into Excel spreadsheet to examine them one by one. And for example here, leftover women in China, this is considered as an MSU because they co-occur together to make meanings. However, you could see leftover women and China in the second example is separated, so they're not making meaning together. So after identifying all the MSUs, then I will interpret what are the semantic preference and semantic prosodies. So I will use some frameworks from critical discourse analysis. That is Van Leuven's social semantic approach, and Charteris Black critical metaphor analysis to interpret the meaning shift units. And then here are some preliminary analysis. And I have got 3 semantic preferences and 13 semantic prosodies. As you can see, I color-coded them into different colors. So I argue the red ones contribute to the patriarchal discourses, and then the green one contribute to the egalitarian discourses. So the implication of my study for methodology, my study contributes to the growing literature of corpus-assisted CDA in the domain of gender representation by proposing an analytical framework that could bring out the most of my topic and which might be applicable to future studies. And my second contribution is practical. So my study contributed to the discussion of the topic on leftover women. One of the latest gender issues in China. I mean, in the West, if you call a woman spinsters, you would be outrageous. But in China, it's okay to call someone leftover women. So I hope my topic would will raise the awareness of gender equality and also bring the ideologies to light. Thank you.
Thank you very much.